Today's guests on the Roost are two members from the band Lake and Lyndale, who are actually a married couple who've been working musicians in Nashville for years. And even cooler is that they live right across the street from me. I introduced myself when we first moved in, but it's been really cool to get to know them on this podcast and have them in the studio. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Channing and Jon Krentz.
Y'all were stuck in the power outage. Y'all stayed at home when it went out?
No, we went to a friend's house.
Our friend's house down the street.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we ended up just going downtown and hanging out. Cause
Did you really?
It was miserable. And my bed's upstairs too, so I've been like sleeping down here. Like sleeping on this couch. Like,
oh, man.
yeah.
It's crazy how like fragile shit is.
Yeah.
Like we're all comfy and then power's out and we're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
went and had a little sleepover at a friend's house.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's crazy. So how long have y'all been living here? Y'all just kind of built this house? I remember y'all saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, 2 years ago?
2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because Madison, it's affordable still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
not like quite as cool as East Nashville, but it will be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
way cheaper.
Making
Just
its
tolerate.
way.
Tolerate some gunshots now and then. It's all good.
Yeah, some sirens. Yeah, it's not too bad. So on this podcast, I like to ask people kind of like, how they got started in Nashville and how they kind of made that leap and what their music journey was kind of like before they got here and how it's kind of evolved since they got here.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
You?
Sweet. So, like, we're taking it back.
Yeah.
Okay. So we moved to Nashville. It's probably been 7.5 years ago,
Wow.
I would say.
Wow.
Time flies.
Mm.
Like late 2017 or something.
Yeah. So John and I moved here with two of the other guys in our band, Tyler and Eric, and that all came together. We were all living in Minnesota.
Mm.
So I'm originally from Illinois, and as soon as I graduated, I knew I wanted to pursue music. So I found a school in Minnesota, and that's actually where I met John and the other two boys. It was called McNally Smith,
Oh, wow.
and it was a little music school in St. Paul, Minnesota.
I dropped out.
Well, it no longer exists, to be
Okay.
honest. So
Yeah. Wow.
honestly, I think that happened the year that we moved here. I think that's when that all...
Yeah. No one really knows why it shut down.
Oh, wow.
Like there was maybe some shady things happening.
Well, maybe
on
don't
the
put
back
all...
end.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
If
let's
anyone
not-
knows, come forth.
We literally don't know.
So yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she has a degree, and if you Google McNally Smith, it's
Yeah.
useless. And it was a cool concept. Like they were trying to do like the Berkeley of the Midwest.
Mm.
It was like
Yeah.
pop, modern music driven, and like
Yeah.
the faculty was good. They had good enrollment,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. Well, my mom's pumped that I have a degree, so
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
that counts for
absolutely.
something.
still haven't used it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
met the boys there,
Mm.
and we were kind of like friends, but didn't start playing together until probably a couple years later. And then we were actually in a band in Minnesota for probably 6.5 years. But for me personally, Nashville was always on my radar. Like even after I had started going to school up there in Minnesota, I remember after the first year, I was like, why didn't I move to Nashville? Like it's closer to my family in
Oh,
Illinois
wow.
because I'm kind of like central Illinois. Like, why didn't I do that? And so I actually looked into it, and then, credits were going to transfer and things like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to see this through, and then ended up joining the band with these guys. And then it was just a whole thing of, I knew I wanted to move here eventually because songwriting just became such a bigger passion of mine
Yeah.
than I think it was when I initially moved.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the more years that went by, I was like, okay, it's time. Like,
Yeah.
and we were a 7-piece band at that time.
wow.
And so everyone was like, we're going to make the move together, take the leap together. So I kept kind of pushing it off. And finally it got to the point where I was like, okay, I got to go. Like, this has just been on my radar for so long. And I feel like I'm going to be really upset with myself if I don't ever take that leap.
Yeah.
So about 7 years ago, 4 of us went from that band and formed Lake and Lyndale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the college degree thing. It's weird. I graduated music business, and it's like I learned way more from the bands I was touring with and doing stuff on the road. And
Yeah.
but it was really great to get to go to school for the thing that I was also. So I was still
Yes.
learning stuff that would apply ultimately to what I was doing.
Well, and I feel like music business major, right on. I wish that's what I would have done,
yeah. What did
honestly,
you
because
do?
I was a vocal performance. But
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but the
It's-
performance degrees feel less because it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
We learned a lot of the things by going out and doing it.
Yeah. Right.
But there was still like for me personally, I always am grateful for that time because just with like technique and like being able to go out and play for 4 hours and things like that. So there were definitely a lot of things I took from it. But looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have done like music business and
Yeah,
like because
yeah,
there's
yeah.
so much I don't
Weird,
know.
Though it's
Yeah.
weird now that I think about it, because like if you go for performance, the stuff you learn. Do you swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
shit you learn is going to be applicable like 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
But like with music business, man, I would argue like if you learned something
That's a
in
good point.
2017, it's probably obsolete at this point.
That is a good point.
That is a
too.
good point. You're right.
That is a good point. But I mean, it's also good just ultimately that like you're not doing like an English major or something that takes away from the time that you'd be spending working on your craft, and you
Yes.
kind of get to
Yeah.
like intertwine schooling and
Yep.
your creative passion.
Here's a question for you then that we
Yeah.
get asked a lot.
Yeah.
In hindsight,
Yeah.
would you do it again?
Well,
in music
I
school?
went to UL, like, ultimately like a pretty reasonably priced degree. It wasn't like I spent a ton of money on it. It was maybe like, $5 to $6 grand a semester, whatever. Not like a crazy over the top tuition. So
Yeah.
I felt it was reasonable that like I could do that, and the curriculum wasn't hard enough that like my teachers were super accepting of me going on tour and doing stuff and like
Yeah.
getting to kind of do both. So I feel like it was a good college experience, and not like something that I'm having to pay off for really like not a
Yeah.
good return on investment. I feel
Right.
like it was a decent experience.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you'd do it again.
I would do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't really like shit on my situation either because that's how I met pretty much everyone I've ever worked with. I mean,
Yeah.
my husband, like, there's just like a lot
Absolutely.
of things. It's like,
Absolutely.
would I do it again? Probably. Because like, what
Yeah.
if none of this would have happened? And
Right.
so you can't really dwell on that, but we do joke about it from time
Yeah.
to time.
Yeah. I do wish I'd come out here sooner, but I'm glad I'm out here. I mean, I'm 24 next month, so I'm glad that I'm out here at this point and not any later. But
Yeah.
sometimes I've got some buddies who've been out here a couple years longer than me, and they've been super helpful getting me
Yeah.
some work and stuff like that. But that was the difference between finishing college or going out here sooner and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think about that sometimes.
For
but
sure.
Yeah. It's tough to know. Do you think there's a time where it can be too soon to make the move?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're not.
Because even this move that I just made was like, I didn't really anticipate the amount of homework I'd have to do for Broadway or for this or
Yeah.
that. And I maybe could have done a lot of that homework at home where the rent was cheaper and the support
Yeah.
was there. But I just didn't know exactly the full extent of what my goals really were coming out here. I didn't have anything lined up. Just came out here just like trying to figure it out, knowing that there was ultimately more opportunity.
Yeah.
I keep saying ultimately. I gotta stop.
Ultimately.
Ultimately. But
It's the word of the day.
Ultimately, we should stop saying ultimately.
but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something important about coming out here, even if you're not ready, because you got to kind of know what it takes.
Get your ass kicked a
You
bit.
kind of got to get thrown
Yeah.
in the fire a little bit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Man, it's funny you talk about like the Broadway repertoire because like
Mm-hmm.
in Minnesota, that band we were running, like that's what we did for like 5-6 years, and it was like a cash cow. We were doing the street dances and festivals, and it was a cover gig, but like that prepped me for all the Broadway stuff. Because even here, I have friends that are amazing players, amazing musicians, and they're like freaked out by Broadway. Like, you're telling me I gotta like at least know how to make my way through these 600,
Yeah.
700 songs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I kind of developed the repertoire of Broadway.
Yeah.
Where like I felt pretty comfortable diving in when we finally did move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I also am curious about too. Is like, how do y'all manage the balance between Broadway and original music, and kind of what's your
You, me?
I mean, I guess I'm gonna let you take that one because I
Okay.
feel like you're doing a lot more Broadway
Um,
stuff.
For me, I like the balance of like if you look at your life as a pie chart, we have an original thing. We have like Channing doing her writer's thing.
Mhm.
I'll play guitar for other people. Amongst like, you know, trying to be smart with money, like real estate. Like I enjoy the variety a bit. Where I'd probably hate life if I was like 100% a Broadway player.
Yeah.
I'd probably hate life if I was 100% like
Yeah.
anything. I like the variety. It keeps it fresh.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It doesn't mean that we lose our minds constantly juggling all the things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
um,
because we do.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Spreads you thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the combination of, you know, I'll do Broadway a couple times a week, and then we'll play an original song or original set or go somewhere, or I'll go on the road with an artist. Like that balance is pretty healthy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm doing the Broadway stuff way less than you are. So I feel like we have like a healthy amount of shows as far as our Lake and Lyndale crew. And that's really all I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, just 4 hours of singing in general, I mean, I know a lot of people work up to doing it every day, and I feel like we did that a lot in Minnesota, and I just kind of was like, I just lose too much energy and focus on like the songwriting if I'm doing it every single day. Now, there are some weeks where we do say yes to more gigs, and then that's pretty much my week, you know, and that's what I'm doing. But I feel like we've been able to find kind of like the sweet spot with, as far as like not doing just this or just this, like John was saying.
Well, in Lake and Lyndale as a band, we use Broadway as our avenue to like record, release, do a music video. Like that band could be gigging on Broadway constantly.
Right.
But we just want to do it enough to keep the lights on, pay the bills, release the music we want to do. So yeah, Lake and Lyndale gigging on Broadway is way different than like me individually playing guitar for somebody else on
Gotcha.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess to keep that balance healthy, you kind of have to protect your schedule, protect your time. Like,
Yeah.
being able to say no to people was something that like took me a long time
Dude.
to figure out how to
I
do that.
just
So
learned
hard.
it this year, so you're doing really good.
well, I mean, at this point, I gotta say yes to everything because I'm here for it. But back home, I was in like 5 different bands, trying to just get as much experience as I could and do all that. And I mean, back home, you had to be playing in as many bands as possible
Yeah.
to do it full time.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. It's like coming out here is like starting over, so I'm excited to be back in that. Like,
So you were doing music full time back at home?
yeah,
too.
pretty much. I was living with my parents too.
Yeah.
And in college, but was making a decent
That's
amount
awesome.
playing
Yeah.
music, and I was with these older guys. We played traditional Zydeco, which is like
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Nolans.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a Louisiana traditional music.
Okay.
It's Cajun French music,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ooh.
I didn't really know any of it. I didn't grow up on it at all,
Yeah.
but it was always around. So it was a big growing experience for my ear, because I got my ear really good at learning the songs on the spot and just getting
Yeah.
thrown into these 3-hour gigs where I didn't know the set list at all,
Yeah.
because it's old Cajun French tunes. But it was
Wild.
very country. It was very like 1-4-5,
Yeah.
6 minor 2. Like
Uh-huh.
simple pop progressions that I got my ear really good at learning that, which has helped a ton charting these songs
Yeah.
Yeah.
and doing
That's
that.
awesome.
But there was, a plateau to how far that was going to take me in music, old
Yeah.
traditional stuff. So
Well,
that
that's-
was,
it's so kind of bittersweet when we talk about our life in Minnesota, because we worked so hard to where, like, in the beginning with that band, you're making next to nothing, and then over a
Mhm.
couple years built it into like
yeah.
this thing where like the money was so good that we could have just rode that off into the sunset and like been making great money playing music.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't really align with, I think, our ultimate goals, both like her and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
as a family, and then our band goals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you had talked about earlier, like identifying your goals when you're here.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to do because like,
Yeah.
if realistically, like if a person just wants to make a living playing guitar, yeah, they can do that wherever they want. If they want to play for an artist, your odds are a lot better, like getting the tour bus gig if you're here in town. So it's like,
Yeah.
people ask me like, hey, should I move? Should I move? And that's my answer to them always is like, what are your goals? What do you want to do?
Right.
Like
Right.
her as
Like,
a writer,
I can
she
never
has to be
tell
here.
Oh, yeah,
people
absolutely.
what to do, but I do regret not coming sooner, and that's solely based on like how much I've seen growth. And like, I mean, you talk about like the band and like growing it to what it was in Minnesota, and that's amazing, and it was super fun, but I didn't personally feel like I was like growing as like a performer or a songwriter. And so I think when I realized that I was kind of doing the same thing and it was becoming really monotonous for me, and I didn't see any growth, I was like, that's when I was like, it's time. Like it has to be now. And now looking back and just seeing, especially with songwriting, just from doing it, and it was just a different world up there where it wasn't people going and treating it like a job every day. Like every now and then, yeah, you'd get together and write with people, but it just wasn't as consistent. And, you know, there's been there will be different comments. I'm not saying you have to be here to be a good songwriter. I'm just saying on my, like, based on what I've experienced and other friends that I've had who have really grown as songwriters here, it's just the time that's been put in to be better and get better at that. And so it has nothing to do with the location, but it's more of a thing here.
Yeah,
so it just
absolutely.
ends up being that way.
Well, because like in your town where you grow up, you walk into a bar and you're like the shit. You're the best
You're right,
musician
right,
there.
right.
And you walk in a bar in Nashville and there's like 20 people that can kick your ass in like a good, friendly way. It's not
Absolutely.
like, that was a big surprise moving down here. It's not like a competitive thing. It's like definitely a community.
Yeah.
But the growth, like in your hometown where it might take you to get from here to here, like that might be a year or so. And like to get from here to here in Nashville is so much quicker just because like the influence, getting your ass kicked, learning, like you're not the minority as a musician here, which is so cool and inspiring.
Well, and that's one of the biggest things. I feel like it's so nice being here because even like around my family or like other people in Minnesota or whatever, it almost feels like you have to follow up. It's like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a songwriter and or whatever. Like you feel like you have to like say something else with it. Where here it's like, I'm a songwriter. And you're like, sweet. You know?
Yeah, right.
Like you don't have to like expand on
Justify
that.
your
It's like,
existence.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So it was funny because people had always said that, but I just hadn't experienced it, and I was like, oh, I really don't need a follow up to what I'm doing with my life. Like everyone gets it. They're like, sweet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a cool change for sure.
Yeah, I don't think people at home really like understand the culture around the writing around here and just like the speed at which this thing moves, and it feels like things happen slowly, but stuff's happening all the time. It's like chipping away
You're so right.
constantly.
Yep.
And it feels like everyone's waiting in line, like waiting their turn for the opportunity, but those opportunities come so much faster than back home, and there's so much more of them.
Yeah.
And that's really a big reason we moved out here, was just like I felt like I played with everyone in town and back home. Like I kind of exhausted all my options back home, and I'd have to wait until someone died or retired, like to get the next big opportunity. And out here, there's just so many different ways you can go
For sure.
and play for.
And I mean, that being said, it's funny that you just say it seems so like everything goes so slow, but also so fast. Cause it's like, I will talk the amount of conversations I have with different songwriters or musicians where people are frustrated because they
Yes.
want things to be happening quicker.
So
and it's
impatient.
like, but there's all these little things that are happening, but
Yes.
it's so little to see because you're surrounded by all these people where it's like, he's got a deal. You get a deal. You get a deal. You know, all things. And then you're like, oh man. And I just have seen so many people just really lost in frustration. And I feel like, you know, you got to be able to be pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you can't let it get to you. Like,
Yeah.
Resilient.
yes,
Yeah.
resilient. Thank you. That is the word I was looking for.
Ultimately. Resilient.
Yeah.
And that's something I've seen people quite quickly who just can't handle that. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
man, you got to take all the no's and like use that as fuel. And if you can't do that, I don't know if it's the spot for you. I
Right.
truly don't, because that's just part of it. But I don't know. That just popped in my head when you said that because it's
Absolutely.
true. Because it seems slow. Like when's it gonna? Everyone's waiting for their turn. There's all these like little things that are consistently happening. So I
Yeah.
feel like you just gotta kind of roll with it and keep working.
Yeah, I think patience has been like a huge lesson for us in this house. It's just been like, we really had no idea what we were getting into. And like we were kind of naive just going up to places like, hey, can we play here? Like, can we do this or that? And just getting kind of a lot of
Yeah.
like no responses or
Yeah.
just left on red or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And just kind of figuring out that like, oh, there's a lot of people who've been waiting in line for this opportunity.
Yeah.
And like, we were finally got a gig on Printer's Alley, and we were busking on the street performing, and luckily like this new bar opened up, and so
No
they
way.
didn't have a bunch of people grandfathered in already, and
Yep.
like I didn't realize that the same 8 bands were playing this club for years and
Sure.
years
Yep.
and years, and like it's like, oh yeah, this you gotta really plant some roots in here. You gotta stick
That
around
is
in this
amazing,
town.
though.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the bar?
Fedora Lounge on Printer's Alley. They've been open about as long as we've been living here, for about
Cool. Okay.
6 months, 8 months.
Sweet.
And they were, just trying to fill up their catalog of
Yeah.
artists, and we were playing on the street outside their bar, and they put their card in our bucket, and
Wait, so what led you to
love it.
busking? You're
That's
like, I got
amazing.
nothing to do today. Like, let's go play.
we were like, let's go make some content. Let's go try and make a little
Yeah.
bit of money. I mean, not making anything. We were playing like when it was getting close to winter too, so there was like no one out either. We just had nothing
Oh, I
to do.
love
We were
it.
like,
I love it.
we need gigs, like we need something. We got to throw something at the wall here because
Yeah.
we got nothing. And
Did you guys
Man.
visit Nashville like periodically before you moved?
we only made one trip to visit, looking at houses, and then ended up not getting any of the houses that we visited, and because we just got denied, and then
Right.
and then this landlord took a chance on us, and it worked out. But we didn't even visit this home before we moved into it. We just got a
Yeah.
virtual tour.
Yeah.
And, so we really didn't do enough recon. We were kind of like in a hurry to get out here. We conceived the idea, and 2 months later we were out here.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We were just like, we just packed everything up. My drummer sold all of his detailing equipment. We sold everything. We were just like, all right, we're going to Nashville.
I love
right
it.
now.
Yeah.
So-
That's cool.
and
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things, but you got to just come and figure it out. I feel like
Yeah.
you can't be fully planned for it. Like we didn't see the house or the apartment we were renting when we first came. Like it was just like when you feel that urge that it's time to go, like
Yeah.
you work it out after that.
Yeah.
You made me remember right when we moved here, and because we didn't have a gig for a long time. Like maybe we did like a couple like rounds and things like that.
Yeah.
But we were doing this thing where we would do these covers in the kitchen, and so we would like do different cover songs, and like we were trying to like go to different kitchens and do all this stuff. And there's this gas station right by our apartment complex we were living at, and I'd go in there every day. So I was like, hey, is it cool if we come in and do like just a song, just do one video in here? And they were all about it. They were like, yes. Then they were like, you should set up outside and play. We set up outside of the gas station. People are coming getting gas, and this guy's just like, only in Nashville. Like, only in Nashville. They're just a band right here. Just
Yeah.
like, hey guys. But that's why I love your story so much, because
Yeah.
it's like, well, we want to do something.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
until we're in it and we're like
Yeah.
doing stuff, let's just like get creative here and
Yeah.
like do something for our own mental states, I think,
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so because some people they move and it's like if you have that big fish small pond in your town and then you move here,
Oh yeah.
they're like kind of sitting around waiting, like, okay, somebody call me, somebody do something. What did you say this morning, or that Jesse had told you that I really
Yeah,
liked?
I
Of
just
like,
I was texting with a friend yesterday because I was just like, hey, I'm like, just with even getting in different writing rooms and stuff. And I'm like, I have a hard time. I don't want to like, what's the word I'm looking? Like, I'm never trying to like, annoy someone, or like, I'm like, how persistent should I be? Like, if it's not
Yeah.
going to happen, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And, she was just like, you know what? You got to tell people exactly what you want in this town. And like, if it's going to be a no, it's going to be a no one way or another. But at least like on your end, that you tried. And I was like, you're so right. Like, that's exactly, because that's how I try to go about things. But then sometimes you like get in these places in your head where I'm like, okay, I should just leave this alone. And then I'm like, nah, I'm not going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you say no to me.
Yeah,
Make
absolutely.
them say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes that ends up working out. And sometimes, it's ghost town. And you're like, all right, that's all right. At least I tried. So
Absolutely.
Well, and
like
there's
that's
like
part of it.
things like maybe a relationship or a manager, or booking agent, where I'll like bug them, and then like a week or two later I'll bug them again,
Yeah.
not get a response, and then like we were talking about, make them tell you no,
Yeah.
and then they'll say, hey, sorry, not the time, but I appreciate your persistence, and then you're on their radar and stuff like.
Well, and you know something that I think is very true for a lot of the people you're messaging and things like that. You just see so much like turnover as far as like bands, or even people just like not being able to get through a few months of like being told no and being like, I'm not doing this. I'm not sticking around for this. And so I almost feel like sometimes those initial no's are like waiting to see if the person's like, if they can handle it, you know, if they're like, no, we're in it, like we're not going anywhere. So I kind of feel like that's a big thing because, you know, if you just get it right off the bat, then
Right.
I don't know. You get what I'm saying.
There's too many people to just give it away right off the bat to everybody.
Exactly.
And yeah, it definitely does cut down the herd to like see who's really about it, who's really gonna stick around and become a local. And it's starting to feel like that for us. And I'm glad we moved out here when we did, because like we didn't want to miss a busy season, like another busy season. And luckily we've been around long enough that like we're finally getting work. This past 2 months, and like it's like
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good timing.
So are your individual goals right now living in Nashville, like obviously the guitar playing is a thing, like a road gig, podcast,
Sure,
just like a mishmash of different things, or is there like a focus?
I think right now, I'm focused on trying to get regular gigs, just like some steady work. It's been a lot of filling. I've got a couple regular gigs here and there starting to pop up, but I'd like to, by the end of the year, probably have at least 4 to 5 regular gigs a week. And then I've been playing for some artists, some guys I know from Louisiana, and that's been cool. And I guess this is kind of another question I kind of have for y'all is like, what is a good balance between like, you know, you take a road gig or something and then you're out of town and you miss opportunities. So I'd love to do it all. I'd love to hit the road. I'd love to play for artists and do that original thing, but I also don't want to miss out on what's going to maybe make me more money in the short to long term.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I feel like we're still figuring that balance out. I know for a while, at least with our band, we were like saying yes to so many things that, you know, looking back didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like, we want to get out and be playing on the road and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just didn't check out and make sense. And I've totally felt that way. We just went out of town for a couple weeks, and I'm like, man, I hope we don't lose our gigs at the spot we usually play, which thankfully we didn't. But that it was definitely in the back of my mind because it is a thing. And I think I'll let you speak on, because you're going on the road a little bit more as of late. So I feel like I'll let you talk.
Well,
about
it was weird
that.
because like that run she was just talking about, we did a 2-week thing with a couple other songwriters, and it was actually like one of the better tours we've been on as far as like
totally worth
crowd
it.
response, money, everything.
Yeah.
But the balance to me, just like we talked about earlier, depends on what your goals are.
Yeah.
So like if your goal is to make a bunch of money playing guitar on the road, I mean, then ultimately you're trying to get like a salary gig or something.
Right.
To where I don't know if being out of town for 2 weeks in this hypothetical person, if that really, really affects them. For me, I just started working with a couple artists, Hannah Dasher, and then I've been working with this American Idol guy, Bucky Covington, like from a while ago. And for me, that's been a great happy medium of like, I'm not gone 3 weeks at a time. It's maybe like 1 or 2 weekends a month. They're like quote unquote cool gigs that look good on my resume.
Yeah.
But I'm not gone a month at a time.
Right.
And if I had to be that, I probably wouldn't do it.
Gotcha.
Because, like, our band is still a primary focus. And, I mean, I like being home.
Yeah.
That's a...
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, we're older than you. So we've kind of like, we've had all those moments where we're like, want to be on the road.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing the band thing. We need to just go. And I don't like regret most of those things because like we have such a good time together. But sometimes you're like traveling and you don't really make like, there's not a lot of people there to even like capture some new fans. Like it's so hard because the world now, it's almost like you have to like build your online presence and then go to that city.
Yeah.
So we were kind of just going blindly into these different cities and being like, okay, well, we got to I don't think this is probably worth it for us.
Right.
Maybe we need to do a little more work on this end first and then go back, And like, I believe in building markets and things like that, but it just seems like it's just done a little differently. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends. Like Midwest, we can still go do like good runs in the Midwest because we all have people and scattered in different areas. So that ends up always being like a really good thing. But you want so badly to go to all these new markets and then realize we just drove how many miles?
Yeah.
And then being like, oof.
Well, and I think we spent the time, like, maybe not as a band, but I guess speaking for myself, thankfully I can afford to be a little picky where, like, I don't have to go do a stinky van tour with sweaty guys anymore.
Yeah.
That's what any of our tours are, though. Like,
well, that's what I was gonna say. The only time I'll get in a van now and like do the stinky tour is like with our band.
Like,
Right.
We were called the sweatiest band in Nashville.
Okay, I actually was just so for different like contents, like get on and just tell a story. No joke, because I was trying to post this live video from a show the other day. I'm the sweatiest person in all the land. It's like. It's
sweaty.
like distracting. Like that's why I started doing headscarves and like hats and stuff. I'm like, okay,
yes.
I got to figure this out because it's like, whatever. I don't personally care. I've been a sweater my whole life. I get it. I know who I am. But like, I'm like, oh shit, I got to post that. And then after that show,
tell the story though. So we were playing.
So he was hosting Nashville tour stop.
But it's a sweaty bar. What's that sweaty bar in Printer's Alley? It's like a basement,
Snitch.
like a cave. It's on like the south side of Printer's Alley.
Alley Taps.
That's
And he
sweaty
comes out and
bar.
he's like, the sweatiest band in Nashville. And I was like, I just go off with my head down. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And the boys just look at me and start laughing because they know it's me. I'm the problem. Our drummer doesn't sweat at all. He can just like go like sprint
no
3
way.
miles and just be like, what? No sweat. We talked about this the other day. Me, I like, I can stand and like sing 2 songs and I'm telling you, it's just what happened. Like my friends, they came to that show and they're like, you look like you just went swimming. And I was like, I know. And they're like my girlfriends and I could tell they were like, oh, you know what I mean? They're like, yeah. I'm like, hey.
I'm a big sweater too. So
Are
you know
you?
what?
Okay.
I think that means you're healthy.
Yeah.
Because, if you're not sweating, you're overheating.
Yeah,
man.
what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Sweaters unite.
Dude, I will look like I just jumped in a pool for sure.
Yeah.
Big hat guy.
That's such a rude thing about humanity. Like the more fit you are, like technically the more you sweat.
Well,
Why is it not the opposite?
I wouldn't say I'm more fit than you guys, but like I sweat way more than you, so maybe I am.
Why
But,
did we? Oh yeah, stinky van tours. That's what we were saying.
Right.
Yeah, that was a super side note.
Yeah.
So, okay, to clarify, I will do a stinky van tour with our band,
Yeah.
Lake and Lyndale. But if I'm going on the road, like, I like the amenities now.
Yeah.
And the cliche holds true of like the music, the money, or the hang, and you need 2 out of 3.
Right.
Like,
Why aren't you just so cool?
like middle fingers. I guess we're on
He's
camera.
like,
middle
I'm not gonna do any stinky tours. It's like I don't even know you anymore.
No, if the money's right,
We got bigger problems.
I'll say if the money's right, I'll get in a stinky van.
Yeah.
I don't know what
right.
that dollar amount is, but
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
right.
I'm gonna get like 0 calls now after
Yeah.
this. This
No.
son of a bitch doesn't do van tour.
Yikes.
No. But I mean, for me, it's like, I'm still new to town, so I think like short-term goals are focusing on the money first, and then like, I know there's kind of a thing with like taking those road gigs. You kind of want to say yes to what you can, so that they still consider you if say that songwriter blows up. Like you want to be along for that ride. So that's kind of where I've been at too. And I don't know how much you've seen kind of like people you've worked with grow and trying to hold on to those connections and those relationships. And saying yes to stuff that maybe like doesn't maybe fit your three, and maybe you still have to be strong enough to fit those three, but like if I'm new enough in town, I've kind of got to do be less picky.
And again, like I feel like, because you've been here now for 7 years, so I feel like that's just it's a little different than because I don't want it to sound like we don't say yes to anything, or that I'm saying that to you at all, because I feel like you're completely right. I feel like what was it? There was that whole speech of Hardy's that was going around, and it was like he took a chance saying yes to Morgan Wallen, and like it was one of those things where it was like, because that happens a lot with rights, where you reach out to people, and then it's them taking a chance on you for that initial one. Some of those turned out to be the people I write with all the time, and then sometimes it's it doesn't go great, and you just say whatever. Like we tried it out, cool, we're moving on here, but you're totally right about taking a chance on some things because.
Sorry, keep going.
No, you're good.
What's wild though, and I have not figured this out, is I've had a handful of buddies that have latched onto an artist. They're thick as thieves. They're doing the Stinky Van tours, get signed, and then the whole band gets canned.
Yeah.
Like there's way too many stories like that.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it's like the label strong arming or if it's the label interjecting and then the artist like pawning the blame off on the label. I really don't know, but it happens so often.
It's a good point.
So often.
I have heard of that.
Yeah. It does make me sad.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Because you think it's like one of your best friends. And it hasn't happened to me personally, but I've had friends where they're like, yeah, this artist, like I thought we were thick as thieves. I thought we were best mates. And then bye.
Well, also, I feel like we're probably like, I'm sure you feel the same way. Some bands aren't like as close. Like there is a little bit where I was like, man, we're hanging out too much. Like we need like, but which adds to like the chemistry of a band for sure.
Oh yeah. And
but I feel like with the story you're saying, it's like
it's an artist.
It's not always everyone's best friends.
Hired
and honestly, like sometimes it probably shouldn't be as personal. You know what I mean? Because it kind of makes, there have been some interesting conversations where it's like, we're not to the point where we like have to tiptoe as far as conversations we have anymore, but there was a time, because it's like, oh, these are like my best friends, and like, kind of navigating all of that to where now we're like, okay, we can get pissed and get over it the next day and we're all good. But there was like a growing period for sure.
Yeah. And I guess, different dynamic for me, like the band, where like our band is truly friends, like a traditional band. When we think of the Beatles or the Stones, like that's the format. Like with the hired gun thing, it's wild though, because like people I know that got canned, they don't know why. Like if I'm in that position, I want to know why so badly. Like, am I playing sloppy? Do I need to change my mustache, change my tone? Like, tell me why. They just get canned, and then the artist is off with like a whole new band on a big tour. And the buddies are like, what the hell just happened?
Dang. Yeah, that is interesting, mixing a hired gun relationship with like, like sticking through this thing, trying to be like a member of the band. And like, I feel like artists are, they can go about things a lot of different ways, and I feel like a lot of people end up suffering by trying to make it a democracy or having too many cooks in the kitchen. And just getting too personal.
For sure.
So I guess I can see kind of like rotating people out for the sake of just keeping distance, like, and not to be rude, but just like I've heard some guys express that like even for regular gigs and stuff, switching people out on regular gigs so that it's just kind of like fresh, and they don't.
Getting animated.
Fresh, and they don't see like and they have the freedom to kind of like, they keep the expectations managed by, if they wanted to change things up, they can, and then they won't have to. And if they want to throw somebody a bone, that's not like a total blind side by doing that regularly.
Yeah.
And I don't know how y'all feel about that, or like doing basically gigs, like
Yeah.
gig economy, like almost exchanging gigs, trading gigs is like currency.
I guess in my shoes, like I've hooked buddies up. Buddies have hooked me up with gigs. Usually, like if they're out of town or they need a sub. The handful of artists I work for on Broadway, there's usually a list of like 3-4 drummers, 3-4 bass players.
Yeah.
So I don't know on their end if they're doing like a calculated, okay, I'm only gonna use John twice this month, or that I don't know. I mean, I believe that's a thing though, and that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
For keeping it.
I mean,
fresh and stuff.
personally, like I like to have a tight band. I like to have the crew, and I mean, me and the guys, like we try and stick together as much as possible.
Yeah.
But someone expressed that to me, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see both sides. I mean, I can't really speak a lot on this because I've played with the same guys for a very long time, and for better, for worse. But there's, I mean, I have, and
For better or worse.
so I don't have like the experience that like John has about switching up band members and stuff like that. But on the one hand, there's just like so much chemistry and sticking together. It's like, especially when you go through like a move together and you're all freaking broke and like not in a good place. Like everyone's like, what are we doing? Like, and you get like through those times together. I know it sounds so cheesy, but I'm like, that's part of the chemistry of a band. Like when you go through all those moments, like we always joke, like we got through our 20s together. So like, well, like we cannot not ever be friends because we just know too much shit about each other. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, it's just like those times that builds a lot of the chemistry. Now, I will say we've had conversations on one end where you do get so comfortable with each other that like maybe someone's having a bad day and they don't act as like professional as maybe they would if they were with a new artist.
Right.
Like you can't be like, there's no pouting over here, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when you are like best friends, it's like, well, I'm having a bad day, and sometimes you're a little too like lenient in those situations. It doesn't happen a lot, but
yeah, it makes sense.
so I can see both sides. For me personally, obviously, I'm more towards the stick together kind of like the chemistry of things, but I can see both sides. I can see getting comfortable to where maybe you want to switch it up, or like if someone starts having like, I guess, never mind. I haven't had a bunch of different like band members, so I can't. I'd say you can like read after even like a few gigs. I would assume that you can like read each other pretty well and how well you like communicate or like work together.
Yeah.
So that could be the other reason they kind of switch people out. But
it's funny just talking about all this stuff. It's like just realizing how gray everything is.
Yeah.
There's no
so
like,
different.
this is how you do it.
Right.
This is not, it's just like, it's so cool talking to different people and then
Yep.
hearing their story. And there's like, just
which
a
honestly
crapshoot.
makes it frustrating, but also makes it kind of cool.
Oh,
Because there's like so many different
yeah.
avenues that could like lead to what your goal is, where it's like, it's not just like, okay, you do this, and then you get the thing. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
I love it too. Some people probably hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, because it does get frustrating because you're like, okay, but it is just kind of cool that we can all like do our different paths and we're all like going towards kind of the same goals, but just the fact that it can happen in so many different ways is either frustrating or very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said something that really resonated, which was like, like when we all made the move together, like we didn't have work for a couple months. It was just morale got really low, and just like to get through that and then get to the other side of that together. I mean, that's really great. So for y'all, what was kind of your journey in the Nashville move, and how did things kind of evolve for y'all? And then y'all started getting y'all first work and started getting work. And
Man,
Well, we were coming down here. We were making trips.
smart,
Maybe like 3-4 times a year
like smart people.
for a couple.
well, but honestly, that was mostly just like coming down and like maybe setting up a couple rights here and there. It wasn't. We did not do as much work, I don't think, exploring or like Why are words so hard right now? Not exploring, researching.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that's the one. I wouldn't say we did like a ton of that, but we would like set up different trips down just to like do different rites and things like that. But I wouldn't say we had anything really established or set up when we moved.
Yeah.
And so that, I guess if you're asking like backstory, kind of like how the band
Or
like
just like what were those like milestones
I
that
think-
like
okay.
you kind of started getting work and then you were like, oh, like I'm doing it now.
I think for me, like when we moved here, like day one,
Yeah.
for me, priorities are like, okay, I got to pay my rent. I got to have power. I got to eat and put gas
Yep.
in my tank. How am I going to fix this problem? And it's working shitty jobs, driving Uber, selling guitars, unfortunately. Like,
Oh yeah, you did
and
sell a lot
so-
of stuff.
for me, my brain operates a little better when I just check tiny boxes. Like today, I'm going to do this, learn how to operate that helix we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then like ideally a year goes by, and if you're checking off these little boxes, you're like, hey, you're like, I'm progressing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, when we moved to Nashville, it's like, okay, how do we pay the bills? Okay, then maybe a couple weeks goes by, my bills are paid, or a couple months goes by. I feel like I accomplished this.
Yeah.
Now what's the next step? Okay, let's do some
Yeah.
networking kind of thing.
Yeah.
To me, that's like a pragmatic approach to like do life, I guess.
Yeah.
Like otherwise I just get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
if that
so he
answers
was-
your question.
He
but-
was working. I nannied right when we moved
Mhm,
down
yeah.
here, so I did that for probably a year and a half. So I was trying to just do rights and stuff around that. Our bass player Eric, he moved in with us that year, I
Mhm.
think, and then our drummer, he lived with our producer who lives very close by. So we were just like, it was kind of like we got to get through this time together, and like none of us quite knew what was happening, and like he said, just finding work. And I think we were playing at one spot downtown, but it was just like a shitty shift.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't great, and we were not really making any money.
like
so I'm
Monday,
not even
9
gonna
to
like
1.
say it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It just was not great, and we were like, oh man, like
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's like looking back now and like now having shifts that we really enjoy and actually making some money. It's like you got to get through that. You got to get through that, and
Well, and
so
we
I feel like
didn't-
all those.
Sorry, I cut you off.
That's okay.
Is it okay? She gave me that look. I'm like, that's okay.
Wait till the
It's
cameras
okay,
aren't
but get the
rolling.
fuck out. Just kidding.
No, I don't even
No.
remember. Oh, I remember. Like when we moved here, it wasn't like stars in our eyes either, though. Like we had expectation, or we didn't have expectations of like, we're talking about the people that move here and they're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
call me, like I'm ready,
Right.
sign me. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we knew, like it's called a 10-year town for a
Right.
reason.
Right.
Like after a year went by and we're not like on a tour bus, we weren't
Yeah.
like, oh man, this like,
I will say though, we came and we were a little too eager, and we ended up getting into business with people that ultimately screwed us, you know,
Ooh.
and just like pretty much took the money we had saved up to
Oh,
get here
wow.
and things like that. So looking back, I really only can be like, okay, we moved here just a little too eager, because it was like one of those things where you're promised all these things and you feel like we had already like put off so much time to move down here.
Wow.
So that when the time came, plus we were kind of dealing with our band in Minnesota. We were very much a family as well. And there's like no bad blood between anyone, but it was like a big breakup, you know? So we were kind
Yeah.
of like dealing with that and then being like, okay, but how do we keep moving forward without taking like a lull of like figuring out what we're doing? So I think it was just too much too soon, in the sense of like saying yes to things that, looking back now, I'm like, we were just being dumb. Like there's no way around it. And we ultimately ended up getting pretty screwed, which didn't help the morale at the time. So I think we just got smarter, and now it's like, okay, one, everyone's timeline is different. I'm just going to trust that things are going to happen how they're supposed to happen. And I know that's cliche and whatever, but that's what I'm choosing to believe, because if I think that I can like control this and speed track this thing,
Yeah.
that's gotten us in really bad
Right.
situations. And so
Yeah.
I'm just going to like let it go, keep working. We're going to figure it out.
Dang.
So yeah, that was a bummer, but it's
Oh.
all good.
It seems like a big part of the music business is just like you have to create your own leverage the hard way to really get a deal that's works
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's your story is probably very valuable to other people too, because I think like there's a lot of impatience,
Yeah.
and but also a lot of just not really, if you've never really done a deal like that, you don't know how to vet somebody. You don't know, how,
Yeah.
if you're new to town, you don't know.
Oh.
Well, unfortunately, that story I don't think is like rare. I think it's actually a pretty common thing because I've
Sure.
heard other people go through same type of stuff, and unfortunately, ultimately, but there are just like too many people who are kind of feeding on people who are just
Yeah.
no matter how to make it happen, and without taking a step back and really thinking it through.
Dang.
Yeah.
So
Because you're right in the sense of like, there's no vetting.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a dentist, you got to do A, B, and C to
yeah,
put the plaque on the wall.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I could be like, I'm an agent.
Yeah.
Come give me money and I'll do things for you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess the moral of the story is be very leery of like paying retainers.
well,
Whatever
I think
they
it's just
promise you.
if something seems not quite right,
Too good
like
to be true.
there were times like when we were in it, something didn't feel quite right, but we ignored that because you want it so bad, you want to do this stuff, and it's like, no. At the end of the day, that feeling was true, and I think that like a lot of artists get into those situations because you're like, oh, maybe I'm just in a mood today. Maybe that's why this doesn't feel quite right. People, we have intuition for a reason, and it's just like so easy to ignore. But once you get to a certain point in your life where I feel like I'm at now, it's like, no, like don't ignore it. Like it's a thing. Even if I don't know. It's a learning thing, I feel like, and it's tough to do in the moment because you do want that progress so bad, but you just have to be okay with maybe it taking a little longer and it feeling right, because that's a big thing. You'll know when things feel right. It just usually ends up taking longer for that to happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of like you almost got to go through something bad, like in a relationship or the music, and like you go through something bad, and then the next thing comes around, and you have something to compare it to.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if you have a shitty boyfriend or shitty girlfriend, and then you break up and date the next person, like what was I doing? Or like that was wrong.
Yeah.
yeah,
And your intuition's better, I would say, than most, as far as like sniffing out the bullshit quicker.
yeah.
I guess that's a compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do feel that way. I feel that way more now than ever.
Well, you did learn it. Like
Yes.
that was
Get the
like
validation.
But I
Decade
feel like
of
we all
learning.
have it. It's just like
Yeah.
maturing into being able to be okay with being like, no, this is off. Like for whatever reason, this is truly off. And like, cause you can't always explain it. You just know. And so I think that was just like a maturity thing for me, because at that time I was not great. This is actually funny. Sorry, I'm jumping.
Go for it.
But it kind of is on topic. But when you were saying about moving here, and like the timing of it, and we've had this conversation a lot because I really regret not coming when I was younger. But then when I really think about it, just like the mental place I was at that time in my life, I'm like, whoa, that could have been really bad, because I didn't handle things well, and handled things that, just that was part of me growing up and stuff like that. So like even the story, it just kind of reminded me of that, because that could have happened a lot more. It's like the whole intuition thing too. That's just come with like maturity and kind of getting my mental health like way more in check than it was at that time in my life. So I don't know. I just thought of
Absolutely.
that when you were talking about timing of even being here, because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to even handle that situation.
Oh, like if you moved here, when you
Right.
were
Like
25.
if I were in because I
Yeah.
mean, again, we've known each other a long time, but like the mental place I was at in my early 20s, I could not handle much at the time. Like I was just going through too much stuff at the time. And so I feel like that story we just shared about getting in business with someone, I mean, it could have entirely wrecked me if I wasn't like as mentally tough as I am now. And that's through just like doing all this stuff and having those experiences. But it could have wrecked my whole time in Nashville. Like, who knows, you know? I might have just been like, okay, we're done here.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's weird to think about those things in your life where you're like, oh, I regret. Because I say that all the time to them. I'm like, I regret not coming sooner. There is a part of me that feels that way. But then there's a part of me that just really trusts that I'm like, no, it might have been a disaster.
Definitely.
I mean, it's been a shit show, but like it could have been a disaster, you know?
Definitely. I definitely think about my 18-year-old self out here, and I don't think I would have. I would have probably burned
You're
some
here
bridges.
at a perfect time.
Yeah. This is a good in between because like I've already got the partying out of me. I got like a lot of stuff out of me, and now I'm coming out here trying to build professional relationships and not just like
Yeah.
party.
I feel like it's like perfect timing.
Dude, tell me about like since you moved here, your experience with that of like going out networking, but you're at the bar all the time. You want to like, do you feel the pressure to like go out and mingle and meet people?
Yeah.
You, like,
oh, definitely. I mean, it's like at some point, I don't know, how much more of a connection I'm building past 2 a.m. It's like, okay, like we've been hanging out all night. And it's like, but I want to soak up, I want to spend as much time with this person as possible. And if they're still partying and they're still going hard and like they want to make this thing an all-nighter, like I want to try and be as memorable and be as like, make as big of an impact as possible. And so when I first moved here, I was definitely like going out super late. I mean, I still go out late and I still have a later schedule than usual. But now I know kind of like, okay, like I met this person, like we've exchanged contacts, like I've done my thing. I feel less pressure to maybe like drink all night with them or whatever.
Yeah.
But and just kind of knowing that like there's always tomorrow, like there's always another opportunity.
Sounds like you found the balance, which some people never.
Yeah, you're smart. Man, I wish I would have had it a little more together when I was your age. Wow, you got it figured out.
Well,
because you're exactly right. It's like
yeah.
I feel like there's so much pressure. We were just talking about this the other night. I was like, man, I cannot go to this show. Like, I have to. There were other work things I had to do. I had to be up early the next day. Then we had a show. It's like, okay, I gotta prioritize like my own health and like being able to take as much energy to the shit that I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm so good at being like, okay, well, I'll go to this because I really need to. And people make you feel like your whole career's on the line. Yeah. Like if you don't show up tonight, you know who could have been there? Yeah. You could have met them. Yeah. And it's like, okay, everyone relax. Like we're living here. We're gonna meet someone like every fucking night. Like you're fine. Take care of yourself. Make sure you're on it. You'll meet the people. It's okay. But like it's a hard thing to figure out because you like beat yourself up. You're like, that could have been it. That was my big break, but I didn't stay out. Yep. There it was.
Yep. Yeah, no, and there's a ton of FOMO in this town because there's like a million different concerts happening all the time, different jams. You can't do everything every day. Like you're gonna miss something no matter what. Yeah. And I had to accept that because like when we first moved here, we had to book a bunch of gigs back home for money and just kind of to work. And every time we went home, it seemed like we missed something big. And I was like, oh, dude, like we got to just stick it out and stay in town. But, and even just going out every night. But I still get to go out a good amount and do that thing. It's just, got to cut it off and go home and sleep and be ready for the gig I have tomorrow or whatever, and just not burn.
And I feel like
burn the
that's
wick.
balance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. We're all trying to learn about. We gotta be. It's a hard thing to learn, but it is very important, at least for me personally. Mm-hmm. So
I mean, going out at all is better than not going out. Whether or not you stay out until the witching hour or whatever, like definitely all the work I'm getting right now is from seeds I planted when I first moved here, and just like that's been great. But it's that maybe that difference between you staying out all night that you're having like diminishing returns at some point on like the more you stay out, you're not really making that much more of an impression. Like, and Also, you
Nah.
might be starting to
Worse
you might start
yeah.
to hurt your impression the
Listen.
longer you stay out. So it's like sometimes
And I'm just eating more pizza.
yeah, and that too. It's like if I stay out too late, then I got to eat another meal, and it's like that's more money, and that's
Yeah,
and like yeah. So it's all
totally.
it's all
The late night hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still haven't figured out if it matters or not, but
Yeah. Just like the
I mean,
option.
sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's a great time.
like
And
a-
I feel like
Yeah.
those are the times when you
Yeah.
do like meet the people that you end up hanging out with again. I
Yeah.
just like the pressure of it and stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, let's all just like
Right.
chill,
Right.
Yeah.
chill and
Yeah.
like remember like we
live
got to be
here.
humans and we got to be like,
Yeah.
Well,
on it.
because like what you're saying, if you don't prioritize your own health and mental health and physical health,
Yeah.
like you're not going to be able to bring your A game to when you
Exactly.
do meet.
Well, I mean,
the
I'll be
bond.
quite honest. When we first moved to Nashville, I took an entire year off drinking because I just was like,
Wow.
I mean, it was something that I had kind of struggled with for years of handling. Like whenever I would get depressed, I would use alcohol to try to like mask that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And had worked my way into some pretty dark places, and being here, it's kind of exactly what I said. It's like that's part of the life. It's part of the job. And so, I think it was our around 6 months after we had moved here. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 1 year no alcohol. I'm still gonna go out to shows. I'm still gonna do all the thing, but I feel like I got to prove to myself that that's not like the driving factor in what's like getting me to this bar to go see my friend play or whatever.
Right.
Or like it's freaking nice out. A beer sounds so good, which it does. Like
Yeah.
even right, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sober anymore, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds bad or whatever.
I'm not sober.
I took that time in my life very, very seriously. So I
Yeah.
just don't want that to come across like
Yeah.
that it would, anyway. That's a whole nother topic that I would gladly discuss, but it's just something that it was a time I took very seriously. Yes, I drink now, but it was very important for me to go through that time. And especially being here and just being like, okay, I met some of my favorite people that I write with, some of my best friends who I met that year. And so it was truly through like not drunken nights.
Right.
And that was very telling for me because I was like, one of my favorite writers, she's written most of the stuff that we've released at his band. We met that year, and it wasn't that we needed a couple beers to like whatever start a conversation. It was just like very true. And so I felt like that was like a good time for me to learn that, okay, alcohol is not needed to make these connections and do all this
Right.
stuff, but we all
Right.
tell ourselves it is. And I feel like a lot of people, which I don't know how anyone stands here, how alcohol.
We're not even big
what it is,
drinkers in
but-
this house,
Okay.
honestly. So I'm blessed for that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's never really been a huge issue to get me to stop drinking. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really like to get drunk, and it's too expensive out here, honestly, to get drunk.
For sure.
It's like,
for sure.
but yeah, I mean, we smoke a little bit, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, drinking, it's not that.
Well,
big of a
and
deal.
honestly, I kind of feel like, okay, I'm going to backtrack because at that time, I feel like drinking was still way more of a thing.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. Like, there's a ton of people who are like, I don't really
Yeah.
drink very much.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way at that time. Like, I felt like it was very like
Yeah.
people were still partying.
Right.
And there
Yeah.
still are people who are partying all the time as far as alcohol goes. But
Oh yeah.
I have noticed a big shift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love it. Like,
Why not?
that's great.
Yeah, and we're all from Louisiana, so everyone drinks. Everyone drinks a lot.
Yeah.
So, I'm used to not drinking around a crowd of people who are drinking.
Yeah.
And that's just a personal thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and I've seen so many. I've been in so many bands where substances have become an issue, and I'm sure y'all
Yeah.
have seen
Yeah.
it. And like, I would hate for that to. I'd hate to be my own obstacle and get in my own way, and
yeah,
like,
that's a good way to- yeah.
especially like
Yeah.
I've literally been working at this thing for so long. It's like, why would I hurt my chances
Yeah.
of like making a fool of myself or whatever?
Yeah.
But
You're freaking wise.
well, I mean, I did a ton of unwise shit. I went to LSU for a year when I was back home, and got a bunch of stuff out of my system, made a bunch of mistakes, and just kind of learned a bunch of hard lessons. But
No, that's good.
I am glad I'm out here at this time because like I'd probably be like I'd probably be hitting on way more of the girls I'm trying to work with, like people I'm trying to like, you know, make professional relationships with, and like, so it's been a journey, but, yeah, I don't know, you know, going out, I was never really into the bar scene either, and now it's just that's just kind of where we do work, and that's kind of where we work, but.
I mean, because it sounds like you were playing at the bars when you were 18 too.
Yeah.
Like I think we all were. And
Yeah, it's the workplace.
Yeah.
yeah,
The bar is the workplace.
Yeah.
So
I never really went recreationally, but now it's like I do, and but it seems like it's a different environment because it's more music centered.
Yeah.
And less like let's get fucked up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we were talking about, you go in a bar in your hometown. It's like
Yeah.
everyone is there. If you go in a bar at 1 a.m., everyone's there to get
Drunk.
trashed or get laid.
Yeah, right.
Which is not the case here at 1 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe for some people.
I was like,
But
I mean, we
everyone's
can't
trying to
speak
get-
for everyone, but I've seen it. I've been it.
Right.
Like, I can't be playing that right now.
yeah.
I've definitely gone in party mode at 1 a.m., but
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what? We
Yeah.
keep those moments
Yeah.
There,
in the right moments, I
It's
guess.
funny what you said about like that'll still happen. Like I will get raging hammered maybe like once or twice a year, and it's like just because like it's in the moment and I
Yeah,
get carried away
definitely.
or whatever, and then
Definitely.
in the morning it's like a good reminder of like, okay, that was fun, but that's why I don't do that
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah. And I think I also like I came out to Nashville like with my guard up because I knew that I was going to be playing more in the bars. Like I knew I was going to be playing more often. It's like, man, if I have a drink or a shot every show and I'm playing 2 shows a day or whatever, like if it gets to that point, I'm
Yeah.
like, then like there's no way I'm not going to be an alcoholic. Like there's no way I'm not going to be drinking too much. So I came
Yeah.
out here already with my guard up, knowing like I need to drink even less than
Yeah.
I did, just knowing that like I'm about to be exposed more.
Yeah. Broadway is wild as far as like people buying the band shots and
Yeah.
stuff, and like
Yeah.
yeah, we hit as a couple, we hit the reset button in New Year's and we took 75 days off.
Yeah.
Just like to show that, you know, I can go. I wasn't like, I don't go on Broadway and like get hammered and lose my gig.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's easy to like play a 4-hour shift and take
Yeah.
a couple shots of tequila or whatever. And so like, yeah, that reset that we did at the New Year was good.
Yeah.
Just to like go through
Yeah.
gigs and hey, I'm not going to have a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like an issue. I don't feel like
No.
for
I
me
agree.
as far as like gigs, mine was just more like, man, our friends and us, we just sometimes go in party mode.
Yeah,
and
right.
it was like, whoa, you know, and then at the New Year, just like, we're going to chill. We're going to chill for
Oh
a bit.
yeah.
It was
And
good.
because it's fun, like, you know.
Well, and even yeah, like you said, not just I'm not even worried about losing the gig so much as just the longevity
Yes.
and sustainability
Exactly.
Mhm.
of like, you know, I played some bands with some old guys and I saw the guys who took care of themselves and the guys who didn't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And the guys who are 50 and they look 70 and the guys who are I play with an 86-year-old who never, or I guess stopped drinking and smoking a long time ago.
Yeah.
And like he still has perfect posture and
Oh my gosh.
sings great and, you know, does these 3-hour
That's
gigs. And he's
cool.
86 years old.
Wow.
And like, that's Rodney Bernard. Shout out to Rodney Bernard. But I love those guys. And they were like a little family to me. And we hit the road with some old guys. And I was like,
Mhm.
man,
Yeah.
they're still doing it. Like they're still
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, you know, they're working. They're still working
Yeah.
musicians at 86. And it's like not a lot of people are going
Yeah.
to make it that
No.
long.
Dude, well, when you
No.
get into it, like as young as like I was playing in
Right.
bars when I was 17,
Right.
18,
Yeah, same.
you get like a first hand view of like what to do or what not to do.
Yes.
Of like,
Yeah.
which one would you rather be in 60 years?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes it's a lesson that, yeah, unfortunately people never learn or never quite figure out.
Yeah.
Like to me, alcohol is just the same as like video games or smoking or like moderation. If you look in the mirror and you're like playing video games 6 hours a day
Yeah,
to
yeah,
where
yeah.
you're not accomplishing your goals, I mean, you might need to check yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like there's many different vices and many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
You've always had a pretty good handle on that.
Well, I mean, it was similar to what Pablo was saying of like just getting into it young.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Seeing what you want to be, how you picture your future.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. This town is really inspiring, man. It's really cool to see that people care about music in the same
Yeah.
way, and that it's actually possible to make a living and it seems like there's no ceiling here. There's no
Yeah.
Mhm.
limits on how you can like create a life for yourself
I
out
love
here.
that.
Yeah.
So I guess it just kind of to wrap things up, like what have been kind of the highest moments and the lowest moments of this music career, and like what's kind of been like, you know, the things that keep you moving forward when things do hit that lowest moment.
Man, it's kind of hard to pinpoint like those exact moments. We kind of touched on this earlier, but I think it's just been like a lot of little things, like like we've played some bigger festival shows. Those are always going to be like highlights, right?
Yeah.
Because they were so fun.
Yeah.
But when I really think about like the highest moments, it's like getting in to certain co-writes and like it going really well. It's
yeah.
like, and that just like takes you to the next step. Or even some of the shows that we had on this last run, it was like they were kind of like smaller, intimate things, but just the energy from the audience and just the way it felt was so cool. That was definitely a high of this year. Like it was so cool. It was like a songwriters round tour, and it just went really well. So I feel like I'm kind of rambling, so my apologies, but you put me on the spot and I'm like highs and lows. But I think it's like all the little things that you start to get all these little wins,
Yeah.
and you start to figure it out a little bit more of like how to get in these rooms or how to like get through this tough time here or whatever. So I feel like it's just been a lot of little things. With the lows, I think it's just dealing with the frustration of it not happening or things not happening how you want it to, when you want it to, and just kind of learning that patience. You know, having situations like we've had where you're definitely getting taken advantage of, and it's at the point that it's happening, there's literally nothing you can do about it. That's like a pretty low thing, but I think to just press on after that is huge. And like we had mentioned this before with getting through things like as a band, but I feel like being in this town and like I have so many friends, and like you were saying, you meet so many people, and it's like we're all going through this shit together. And I feel like that's why there's so much energy here. You know, that's why, like, because obviously there are some people, there's going to be some competition here and there, but for the most part, everyone gets it, and everyone's like, you know, even people who are just crushing it, they're like, yeah, I was there 1 year ago, or I was there 4 months ago. It's like everyone's in it. We get it. So as long as you just like be cool, like don't be a dick, you know, treat everyone with respect. And I just feel like that's probably the best part of this town. If you go into situations or even when you are going out or whatever, like don't go into it thinking you're the shit. Just like talk to people. We're all in the same thing. No one's like we're all doing the same thing. However it works out and like however big or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like if you can just have like that mutual respect, like we're all in this together. And I think that's like one of the coolest parts of this town. And it definitely is one of the parts that like keep me here for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, that's such a good question. For me, like what keeps me going, it's not like a goal or like some people will hang their hat on like, I want a Grammy. I need a Grammy. You might never get that.
Yeah.
Like fingers crossed that you do.
Yeah.
Or we do. But what if that never happens? Like,
Right.
So I guess what keeps me going is like trying to remember like 13-year-old John, like why you get into it in the first place is like just spreading the love and joy of music and what it can bring to people. And as far as managing like the highs and lows of the industry, like if you get your ass kicked one day or you have a small victory the next day, like I think this gets outside of like the music topic and it's more of like a humanity conversation because like everyone's dealing with like highs and lows in their day to day, whatever thing it is. And for me personally, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, I tend to have like low highs and high lows where I'm like pretty like this. Like I'm not going to get over the moon over something great, and I'm not going to like go into a deep dark depression for something bad.
Which annoys me, Miss Extreme over here.
Yeah, and I don't know why. It's like a product of maybe military, going through army band. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's worked for me. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the last piece for me is like, I'm a list guy. I'm going to write down like, this is what I'm going to do in the next day or two. And then if I just do those things, I see progress. It's like the slow climb. Yeah.
Well, and sorry.
Because I might get a Grammy on the paper.
Right.
Like set some goals that are manageable and that you can achieve today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's a good
baby
point.
steps.
That is
for
a good
sure.
point.
I think the only other thing when I think about, I mentioned this earlier, like a lot of artist friends who are like so talented, but like the main goal is like going viral. On social media. And it's like one thing I would say, and I've straight up asked to these, because they'll go in these places where it's like, well, haven't gone viral. And I'm like, do you enjoy playing shows? Like, do you, because there are times when I'm like, I'm not certain you really enjoy this. Like, are you, because how to write this morning. I love it. I love the feeling I have after getting out of a write. Like I sincerely love it. But if that changed, I definitely would like think about it and say, do I really like this? Like, am I doing this? Because if the core reason of like why you're doing the thing is like to go viral on something, okay, sorry, that's just like not where I'm at in my life. Because you're just putting all like, what about all this time and energy you're putting into the thing? Anyway, that may not make sense, but it's just a good question that I like to ask people. I'm like, do you enjoy what you're doing? And like really think about it. Because there have been times where I'm like, man, this sucks. But then we have a show that I'm like, it's a quick reminder that, oh, I fucking love this. Like, I love this. Or I go to write and I'm like, like this still feels right. So whatever happens, in the viral world, like I'm good because I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I feel like it's just like a question. It sounds... I feel like half the shit that comes out sounds so cheesy, and you're like, all right,
it makes sense.
But
it's not doing it for fame, not doing it for the money. Like that's cheesy as hell, but it's true. Like cliches are cliches for a reason.
For sure. Yep. How about you?
Well, I think there's just these. I remember there's just these. Whether you finally do get that phone call, or you finally do get that thing that's like, oh, it's validating in that sense. That's like all this work, all these seeds I've been planting, all this stuff I've been working towards is finally bearing fruit, and it's finally coming. It's showing that like I'm actually making change in my life. Like I'm actually, I'm actually moving this cart forward, and that's great. And it's just progress. There's always little progress, and my playing's getting better, and that means a lot to me because I've been playing since I was 5 years old, and to see improvement at all is just, it used to be so rare, and now it's happening all the time, and it's been super nice being out here and seeing that. And so I feel like I'm already kind of doing it. Like I just feel great. It's like
you are.
Yeah, it's like here
That's
we are.
The thing,
and
you are.
Really, my big goals, the big picture goal was just to play music at the highest level I could with the best musicians I could, and I just got the opportunity to play with Rob Talton and Ping Rose and Byron Fisher and Jordan Carter, these monsters, and we played at Bon Jovi's last Saturday, and that for me was just like, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
like, this is
you're
it.
doing
like,
it. That's amazing.
This is music at a really high level, and I just didn't expect it to happen. I mean, I guess it's not that quick, but it was just like it happened. So it's like,
That's
for me,
awesome.
that was that this past 2 months has been a huge win for me and for the guys here, and the morale has been low the past couple months for sure, and just to see that like now we're kind of getting recognized and kind of like
Yep.
making our way. It's been super rewarding.
Good. I love to hear that. Because
Absolutely.
I feel like we all get those times
Yeah.
of where the morale's low. So
Don't worry, it'll get
glad that
low
it's-
again.
I'm glad-
Yeah.
no way, man. Come
Oh,
on,
no.
keep it. Just
But-
keep it up.
And I'm prepared for that too. I know it's, ultimately like just playing guitar has always been the thing that keeps me kind of getting out of bed whenever it's gotten low. And one of the guys I worked for back in Louisiana always told me music's very up and down, and like, they love you one day and they'll forget about you the next day. And then, but if you keep going, you'll get another wave, and you just got to ride the waves as they come.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
it's been good. I've been blessed, and I've had some good experiences and some bad ones. But I appreciate y'all so much for coming on and talking with me.
Thank you, Pablo.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having us,
thank
and
y'all.
congrats.
Thank you.
Let's
Yeah.
keep it going.
I know. I hope it keeps going. I mean, honestly, it's weird because it's like, nothing can be very unstable. Very like, I hope this wave of gigs keeps coming because I don't have like any regular stuff yet. But anyway, we could talk about this a whole nother time. I mean, we can dive into it. I hope y'all come back on sometime.
sure.
and,
Yeah.
this has been great. But thank you.
Thank
John and
you.
Shannon.
Thank
y'all.
This
you.
is awesome.
Bye, everybody.